Here's a question for you. What's the biggest Ballon d'Or robbery of all time? You might say Lewandowski in 2020, when the award didn't even happen, or Wesley Sneijder in 2010, after winning the treble with Inter. But picture this, a player scores 32 goals and gets 28 assists in one season, became the first person in history to hit 20 goals and 20 assists in Europe's top leagues, led his team to an unbeaten season that people still talk about today, and he still doesn't win the Ballon d'Or. Sounds impossible? Well, that's exactly what happened to Thierry Henry. Not once, but twice. Thierry Henry's 2002-03 season was like something out of FIFA. He registered 32 goals and 28 assists across all competitions, made history by hitting 20 goals and 20 assists in a single season in a top 5 European league. The only other player to do this, Lionel Messi, years later. But here's what makes it even crazier. In the Premier League alone, Henry scored 24 goals and made 20 assists. That's 44 goal contributions in 37 games, a record for the most goal involvements in a single Premier League season. No striker had ever done it before. He wasn't just finishing chances, he was creating them. He was Arsenal's top scorer and their best playmaker. It wasn't just domestic dominance. In the Champions League, Henry scored 7 goals, including that outrageous night at San Siro, where he tore Inter Milan apart with a solo goal that is still being replayed today. But numbers don't tell the whole story. Henry wasn't padding stats, he was the main man. Every attack ran through him. He was the top scorer, the playmaker, and the leader, the man who terrified defenders before the match even started. But context matters too. This was peak Premier League, the toughest defenders, the fiercest rivalries, and up front, Henry's great rival was Rod van Nistelrooy. The Dutchman was a machine, clinical, ruthless, and in that season, he edged Henry in the Golden Boot race by a single goal. 25-24. But the difference was that Van Nistelrooy just scored. Henry, on the other hand, was the complete package. On top of that, Henry won the FA Cup with Arsenal while being the top scorer in the competition. That summer, he also led France to the Confederations Cup, where he was again the top scorer and the player of the tournament. By the time the Ballon d'Or voting came around, it felt obvious. Henry was the man, the best striker in the world, the most complete forward of his generation. And yet, when the envelope opened, the name read Pavel Nedved. Many asked, how is this possible? How did Henry, with one of the greatest individual seasons ever, lose to a player who, ironically, didn't even play in the Champions League final? The reality is deeper than you think. See, the Ballon d'Or in 2003 wasn't just about stats on a spreadsheet. It wasn't about who had the most goals, or the most assists, or the shiniest golden boot. The Ballon d'Or was about narrative. It was about moments. It was about the one who left the biggest mark on the biggest stage and the one who captured the heart of Europe. And Pavel Nedved's story, it was unforgettable. That season, Juventus stormed to the Serie A title, and in Europe, they made it all the way to the Champions League final. Nedved was at the heart of it all. He was the tireless warrior with golden hair, dragging Juventus past Europe's giants. While he scored 14 goals and 3 assists, his season-defining moment came in the Champions League semi-final against Real Madrid. This was the original Galacticos team, with Zidane, Ronaldo, Figo. Yet, it was Nedved who stole the whole show. He scored. He created. He inspired Juventus to tear Madrid apart. That single performance became his Ballon d'Or highlight reel. But the irony was, in that same match he received a yellow card that suspended him from the final. He never even stepped on the pitch against Milan. Juventus lost on penalties, but the world only remembered Nedved's semi-final masterpiece. Meanwhile for Henry, Arsenal crashed out in the group stage of the Champions League. So when the knockout rounds came, when the spotlight was brightest, he wasn't there. Outside of England, that mattered, because in 2003, the Premier League still wasn't considered the world's best league. Serie A and La Liga carried more weight, and to voters across Europe, Henry's dominance in England looked impressive locally, not globally. It didn't help that Van Nistelrooy edged him by a single goal. So to many voters, Henry wasn't even the best striker in his own league. How could he be the best in the world? When the votes were counted, the gap was brutal. Nedved had nearly 4 times as many first-place votes as Henry, winning by 190 votes. Even Paolo Maldini achieved more second-place nods than the Frenchman. Although Henry finished second overall, the defeat was crushing. So yes, Henry had the numbers, but Nedved had the story, and in 2003, story beat stats. But as historic Henry's 2003 season was, it wasn't even his best chance at winning the Ballon d'Or, because the very next season, he led Arsenal to immortality. And yet, what happened to him was shocking, something that no one could have imagined. In 2004, Arsenal wrote history, unbeaten in the entire Premier League season, 38 games, 0 defeats, earning themselves the immortal nickname, the Invincibles. But at the center of it all, once again was Thierry Henry, only this time he took his performances a step further. Henry ended the 2004 season with 30 league goals, won the Golden Boot, won the PFA Player of the Year, and took home the European Golden Boot for the second straight season. And most importantly, he became the face of a team that went down as legends, because Arsenal weren't just champions, they were untouchable. During that run, Henry was scoring hat-tricks to save their unbeaten streak. He was included in the UEFA Team of the Year, he received the Football Writers Footballer of the Year award for the second time, and he was the runner-up for the FIFA World Player of the Year award. He was breaking records on every front. Defenders feared him more than anyone in the world, and this time there was no Van Nistelrooy to steal the spotlight. This was Henry's year, or so it seemed. By every measure, he should have been the front runner. The trophies were there, the goals and assists were there. Finally, numbers and narratives had come together perfectly. But when the Ballon d'Or rankings came out, Henry wasn't first. He wasn't second. He wasn't even third. He finished 4th, behind Andrei Shevchenko, behind Deco, behind Ronaldinho. But how? How could the man who led a team to an unbeaten league season not even crack the top 3? Once again, it came down to Europe. Arsenal's Champions League campaign ended early. Henry had moments, like his performance against Celta Vigo, but nothing else that defined the tournament. Meanwhile, Deco had led Porto to a shock Champions League title. Ronaldinho was, well, being Ronaldinho at Barcelona, and Shevchenko, he was the top scorer in all competitions for the calendar year 2004. For the second straight year, Henry's domestic dominance was overlooked. Voters saw him as a player who could destroy England, but not Europe. Again, in the eyes of the Ballon d'Or voters, it wasn't enough. 2 years in a row, Henry was robbed. The winner in 2003, Pavel Nedved, even came out to say Henry should have won the Ballon d'Or instead of him. And if you thought that was bad enough, 2004 was even more cruel, because Henry had both numbers and narratives. And that raises a bigger question. Why does the Ballon d'Or work this way? Why do voters overlook some players while elevating others? Because Henry's luck with the Ballon d'Or wasn't over yet. For 3 to 5 years in a row, depending on who you ask, Thierry Henry was the best player in the world, but he never came quite close to football's most coveted prize. He had everything except making voters feel memorable. 2004 went to Shevchenko because he performed in all competitions. 2005 went to Ronaldinho because of his dazzling display, giving reporters plenty of stories to write about. 2006, well, Henry captained Arsenal to their first ever Champions League final, scoring against Real Madrid, Juventus, and assisting Sol Campbell's opener against Barcelona in Paris. But down to 10 men, Arsenal conceded 2 goals late in the game and the dream was gone. Just weeks later, the World Cup final offered him another shot at immortality. Henry scored crucial goals on the way there and was even the tournament's top scorer. But in the final, France were reduced to 10 men after Zidane's infamous red card. The game went to penalties, and once again Henry watched another trophy vanish. 2 finals, 2 defeats, and when the 2006 Ballon d'Or votes came out, Cannavaro's World Cup triumph earned him the Ballon d'Or. Henry, 4th place, again. He never delivered the moments to the people that mattered. Journalists couldn't write a story about Henry other than his numbers. The award had always gone to the players who had a feel-good factor in the way they play, or whether they win a continental trophy. Today, the Ballon d'Or is different because it's predictable. You can almost call the winner months before the ceremony. But in the early 2000s, it was about narratives, about European prestige, about defining moments on the grandest stage. And that's where Henry always fell short. He was only untouchable in England, but a failure in Europe. He did eventually win the Champions League, but he did it in a side that had bigger stars, and he had the least impact for them. And for France, Zidane was always gonna be the headliner. Add to the fact that the Premier League wasn't yet seen as the #1 league in the world, Henry unfortunately would always fall short. But you should know, he's not the only one. The Ballon d'Or has snubbed many legends before, and it's still doing it today. In 2023, Erling Haaland had the statistics and the story, but lost to Lionel Messi's World Cup victory. Mo Salah's record-breaking few seasons were barely recognized. So maybe the real question is, has the Ballon d'Or lost its meaning? Because we have another story for you on why the Ballon d'Or isn't exciting anymore. So check out this next one, and I'll see you there.